Tom Clark's Main Event is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show.
This is Daddy's show. Step off.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to the program, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Clark, and this is Tom Clark's Main Event. What's up, kids? I try to time that all the time with the video when it pops off, and I never get it. Look, we have a guest today. There's my DOG. If I say the word DOG, he's going to go, huh? And then come over here and want me to pet him. So I'm just going to let you have a view of him. I tell you his name, but if I do that, huh? And then he comes over here and pet me, right? So I'm just going to let him lounge. So he's not getting paid for this, by the way. He's just like a sidekick. Enough of that crap. How's everybody doing out there today? Happy Friday to you one and all. This is Tom Clark's Main Event, and no, the lighting is never good. It's a work in progress, baby, but we'll get it there eventually. So I did adjust the camera this week because in weeks past, it's been like way too low, and then like my face cut off way down here and stuff. And I know you want to get as much of the bearded glory as you can handle. So I made that happen for you. You're welcome. Let's get some hellos out of the way first. Who was the first one on board today? Sugar Shane Odom. What's up, Shane? As my guest on deck will find out, Shane's an old school fan. We talk a lot of old school and New Japan stuff. Jason, what's up, bro? Carlos Martinez, how's it going, my friend? Shannon, we call her Soundbite Shannon. Phil, we'll find out very shortly what that means. Sandy in Germany, what's up, my friend? Thank you for hanging out, as always. Christopher, what's going on? Good to talk to you as well, Sandy. Will says, happy Friday, finally. Will's been looking forward to Friday, kids. He couldn't wait till he got here. So there you go. I was trying to go in order. This thing skips like crazy. What's up, Russell? Let's see who else we got. Rebecca, thanks for tuning in as always. Timothy, what's going on? AW's man, Timothy's just going to hit the ground running, baby. He's not going to mess around. He's going to start hitting us with stuff. It's all good, man. We'll get there. Ray, what's up, my friend? Ray hits me with Wu-Tang for Life all the time because at the end of one of the episodes weeks and weeks and weeks ago, we opened the floor and I said, let's just talk music. So we started talking about favorite bands and Wu-Tang came out and it was like, ever since then, Ray hits me Wu-Tang for Life. Yes, sir, my friend. Absolutely. Ray is a huge Adam Cole fan. I can't believe he didn't lead with that. So where'd you go, Tim? Tim says W is going down. Man, Tim, it's too much information to hit me with right off the bat. We'll get there. We always get there, right? What's up, Danny? Ryan says he can't wait for hot garbage, and Phil is on deck saying, what's that mean? You'll find out. Jane, what's going on? Thanks for hanging out again, as always. Kelly, what's going on? Thank you so much, Kelly. So cool of you to say that. I do appreciate it. Eric, I hope you're doing well, my friend. I like to get all the hellos out of the way as quickly as I can. Al, what's up? Victor, this is rapid fire, baby. Belinda, what's going on? Elvis Martinez, who I still maintains the best name ever. I'm just saying. Best name ever. What's up, Elvis? Thanks for hanging out, man. All right. Brad in Minnesota. Go Vikes. I'm just saying. So there you go. All right, man. Let's get to the guest. Sometimes we have guests here on the show besides the DOG, who's now going to sleep. That's how captivating my podcast is, kids. I like to keep my audience riveted. There you go. So let's bring him on deck. You know him from Bleacher Report. You also know him from several other websites online, Daily DDT being one of them. Mr. Phil Lindsey. Also, by the way, hang on, Phil. If you happen to subscribe to Tom Clark 6M Podcast, good on you, because man, do we have fun. And Phil has become sort of my unofficial, official co-star and guest host and co-host of the thing. There it is. So yeah, if you've listened to the show, and shame on you if you haven't, because you're doing life wrong, right? Then you know Phil. There you go. So Phil, what's up, man? How you doing, bro?
What's going on?
Not much, man. Just getting everything teed up today. We're going to get the, there we go. Bam. So we got to get the logos up, got to push, got to sell yourself, that kind of thing. So Phil, before we get too deep in the weeds today, Oh, by the way, kids, this is Phil. Phil, these are the kids. Everybody say hey to Phil. Everybody here is very nice. We've got a good audience here, man. Everybody's pretty respectful. And if they're not, we kick them out. So everybody's pretty cool. Phil, tell the good people here a little bit about yourself and what it is you do online.
Okay, so I write at Bleacher Report at the moment. I off and on at Daily DDT. Can find some of my work at Sportskeeda as well. But wrestling fans, sometimes you can catch me writing about basketball as well.
There you go. Phil is a renaissance man when it comes to the writing, dude. He is me 10 years ago. He's young. He's hungry. Not as good looking as I was. I'm sorry, man. I'm just kind of like I see it. So I'm just playing. Yeah, man, he's doing his thing. So listen, show Phil some love, dude. Look him up, follow him on Twitter, be his friend on Facebook. He collects friends much in the same way I do. He's always opinionated, got something to say on Twitter, and I always appreciate everything he has to say. He and I have some deep conversations off the pod. And if we ever decide to do a show with politics as a topic, boy howdy, would that be fun. So don't know if we're going to do it, but you never know. Ray suspects
they're ready.
Ray, yeah, they're not ready, right? Ray already suspects that you like Adam Cole. Ray's hoping that you like Adam Cole quite a bit. So there you go.
I love Adam Cole.
There you go, Ray. See, Ray, it's all good, man. You can rest easy now. Shane's going to hit you with a question right off the bat, man. Let's hit this. Hey, Phil, who was your favorite wrestler and how did you become a fan?
Who's my current favorite wrestler or just like all time?
Let's say all time.
All time. I probably would say The Rock is my favorite all time, just because he represents the time that I started watching wrestling, and he just was like, to me, the guy at the time. I mean, like from all of the heel stuff all the way up to like Hollywood Rock later on, he just was my fave.
There you go. So was The Rock your gateway into being a fan as well?
No, Undertaker actually was.
Yeah.
I think like the first time I saw anything wrestling related, it was like a wrestling magazine, and it had Undertaker on the front.
There you go. He very captivating personality. Very of course the mystique and the intrigue and the image and all that stuff, man. I'm sure he drew a lot of people in. Elvis, I don't know if Phil's a huge Lana fan. Phil is a women's wrestling fan. Elvis constantly campaigns for Lana here on the show. We're not really sure why, but I suspect he's in her corner. All right, I'm just saying. All right, kids, before we get too crazy into questions and whatnot, we're going to go ahead and kick this show off. Let's kick off with one of the big headlines of this week. Drew McIntyre, of course, quarantined with the COVID. All the best to him. Hopefully he's okay. Supposedly he's asymptomatic, if I read that correctly. And by the way, he's accepted the invitation to wrestle Goldberg in 2021. I know what you're thinking. Awesome. Phil, give me your red hot take on this right out the gate. What do you think?
So
that's very telling. If you lead off with a breath, that's very telling.
Yeah, so that Legends Night episode where Goldberg challenged him was not good, and the promo Goldberg did was all over the place. I do think a Goldberg and Drew match can be good. Am I excited for it? Not really, just because the way they've used Goldberg over the last 2 years or so doesn't really do it for me. It's not really my cup of tea. And I mean, I know everybody thinks that Goldberg is going over, but I can't imagine that they would have Goldberg beat Drew. That just is such a odd decision if they do that. But man, you never know.
Every time he comes back, he wins a title, right?
Yeah. So I could be off base. He could be getting ready to take the title off of him, and that's where we'll be at. Goldberg WWE champion in 2021.
I know, right? Yeah. Shannon believes that a hot garbage moment is going to happen, and Phil appreciate this because he's a Kofi fan, as I am as well. So in honor of Shannon, and of course Shannon agrees with you on the Goldberg prospect, here's what she has to say to that.
Hot garbage.
Bam. There you go. Shannon, that's for you. So yeah, dude, I'm getting a lot of the same reaction from people online. Everyone's talking about it. People here on the show every week have been talking about it, and it's like that promo last week. Not to get too far into it, but the minute he came out and spat off all that stuff, I'm like, who on this planet, if it was on this planet, wrote that garbage for him to say? Because it made zero sense. And I'll tell you this: if Drew, and I said this last week on the show, if Drew ends up turning heel because of this. Oh, Goldberg was on to something. That is the dumbest thing. Please tell me that's not going to happen.
I hope not. He's one of the best faces they have at the moment on Raw. That'd be a huge mistake.
And if they did go that route, who's going to be the face that goes after the title?
They haven't built anybody else up.
I can't think of a soul. Sheamus? Do you think they could twist it and make it?
I don't think anybody wants to see Sheamus as a face at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I still maintain that one of Sheamus's finest moments in that company was the night that he came out and got Mark Henry's face. And we hadn't seen Sheamus in a bit. It was on SmackDown. And Tay Long, Mark Henry was like, give me some competition. And Sheamus goes, I'll fight him. And that crowd went, oh, okay, well, I guess we like Sheamus now. Man, he got over so huge. And I thought, this is good stuff. But then, as they tend to do with a lot of people, suddenly he became a comic book character. Or cartoon character, I should say, and it was too much, and he smiled too much, and he was too hokey, and I'm like, how did you blow this? What happened to, I don't back down from anybody. I don't care how big you think you are. I'll fight you right now. I mean, that got over, and then, just took the wind out of the sails later.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I mean, that's a whole conversation on what they're doing with Sheamus and Cesaro. It's weird. I don't know.
I agree. Sheree, I'm not going to put your comment up because language. Watch your language here, kids, but I appreciate what you're saying. She says, happy Friday. Let's see. Pierce, don't forget Drew versus Goldberg. Drew and Goldberg, what in the heck? There you go. Pierce versus Reigns, what in the living heck is going on? Heck yeah. I really wanted, I don't know who you're talking about versus Reigns. Shinsuke, I guess. I agree with you. That would have been a great match. We'll get to Nakamura here shortly. Let's see. Ryan says Goldberg is going to not only hurt himself but someone else. He's been unsafe for years. I can't say I totally agree with that. Goldberg's style is Goldberg's style, and he's not going to change it for anybody. So this match is probably going to be fairly quick, as most of his matches are. I don't think Goldberg. Listen, I'm a Goldberg guy. I do, because I've heard him speak outside of pro wrestling circles, and he's the best dude. He really is. He's got a heart of gold. He really cares about what he's doing. He really does care about the kids that he visits and talks to and stuff. It does mean a lot to him. So I'm in his corner. I really am. Do I think he's too rough? Yeah, but dude, listen, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but at the same time, man up. I mean, there's arguments to be made that this whole current generation of pro wrestlers are a little bit maybe light. I'm not saying, we got a lot of cruiserweights flying around. How many of them can really take a punch in the mouth and come back again? I mean, man up, dude. Am I wrong about this? Do you think I'm off base with that?
Well, because you're right in the sense that Goldberg is a great guy. Like all of the stuff that they did with him as Universal Champion, and he did it for his son, and like all of those moments, and you see him as a dad, and the 24 they did on him was great. But do I need to see Goldberg as a champion now? No. You can bring him in and do things and use him in ways where you don't have to put him in the title picture. And I think that's what people's problem with this is. And as far as him being unsafe, I don't think he's unsafe. I think the only time he looked unsafe is in his Saudi match, which was a disaster. And that wasn't because he's an unsafe worker. That's because he was clearly concussed. Don't bang your head into locker room doors, folks. It's not a good idea. Don't do it.
So I'm watching that god-awful show, and he headbutts the door, as he typically does. And for me, it felt like an eternity, but I've watched it back since then. It wasn't that long. But after he did, I was like, okay, why isn't he coming out? And then he came out, and he barely raised his head to look up. And I looked at whoever, I forget who I was watching the show with, and I said, I think he's knocked himself out. And they're like, what? And I said, dude, when he just headbutted the door, I think he's knocked himself silly. because from the moment he came through that door, he didn't look right at all. So
Yeah,
I think it started there. Honestly, I don't think it was just him hitting the turnbuckle post. I think it started right there.
Yeah, I think he clearly either concussed himself when he hit that door, or he was just not there. Whatever happened, he just, again, whatever you got to do to get yourself amped up, don't bang your head against the door. That's just not smart.
Jason says, I admit it, I don't care for Goldberg, but I'm tired of everybody hating on him, and I want him to beat Drew McIntyre, which is a shocker coming from me. That's a hot take. Wow. So, all right. Let's say Jason's right and Goldberg goes over. What's the end game for Drew? Does Drew get it back at Mania? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, to me, if he wins, I don't see where you go with that. Best case scenario, I will, if I want to throw my fantasy booker hat on. If he does win, to me, Big E has to win the Royal Rumble, and Big E should be his match at WrestleMania. That dream match has been out there. Big E says he wants it. What is the quote? Big meaty men slapping meat together. Make that match happen at WrestleMania.
I love E, man. I hope it does. We're going to wrap up the Goldberg bit of this little show with this. Ricardo says Goldberg versus the door wins. Yes, sir, Ricardo. Well said. Let's get to another hot button topic this week. The hate train has backed up to Charlotte Flair's door once again. Everybody is hating on the Queen. So you and I spoke off pod last night about this a bit. As you and I have said in the past, people tend to read their own press, and this is very true for wrestlers, talent, whatever. And she's obviously not exempt from this. What do you think? And it was covered on Busted Open this week. Also, it should be noted, the hate that's leveled at Charlotte. If you could sum it up, why do you think there is this much hate leveled at Charlotte Flair as bad as it is?
Well, I have the question, is it really hate for Charlotte at this point? Because the thing is, I think everybody would acknowledge that Charlotte is great. She's going to go down as one of the best women's wrestlers of this generation, if not the best women's wrestler of this generation. I don't think it's a level of hate at her. I think it's kind of the Roman thing where it's a hate in the way that they use her. And it's just all the way to, all right, you have her win the Rumble, then you have her go over Rhea, who's white hot at the moment. And it just doesn't make sense. You have her come back at the last pay-per-view. The second she comes out, you know she's going to win. And she comes out, gets the pin, and Asuka is all of a sudden secondary in this storyline. And the storyline is she shouldn't even be in by all means. Like, why is she even in that storyline with Charlotte and Nia? It just, I don't know. But I think that's what it is. I don't think it's necessarily that anybody dislikes her. Like, I don't have any reason to feel that people think she's toxic or problematic or anything like that. I just think it's the way they book her. And it's the same, like I said, it's the same thing that they had with Roman for a long time.
Yeah, and you made that comparison last night, and I think it's very appropriate. I don't know if you could go back when Roman was really getting the hate unnecessarily, and we were all writing about, man, listen to these crowds. They hate this guy. They hated his booking. I think that's why people hated John. They didn't necessarily hate John. They just hated his booking. If you go back and watch matches of John before he got big, John can work. And well, John can't work, pal. He didn't. No, yes, he can. It's just that's not what they wanted from him. They didn't want arm drag takedown and hip toss. They didn't want all that. They wanted him to fight knuckle shuffle and brawl and throw punches. And, it's all in what that company wants. And from Charlotte, they, like you said, they book her straight to the top every time. And I with you, I think that's what people hate about her. Shan says, fans, we need Charlotte back. Charlotte comes back. Fans, stop pushing Charlotte down our throats. It's crazy. You're right. Absolutely right. Yeah, fans say one thing, they get it, and then boom.
Well, but see, I was never in the crowd that said we needed Charlotte back. I always was saying, look, you have a group of women on Raw that you need to be pushing for. You have Asuka, who is phenomenal, who is possibly the best in-ring worker you have on the main roster in terms of women. Book stories around Asuka. Do something with her as champion. Like you forget she's champion at this point. She wasn't even on Raw this week.
Yeah.
So I don't. That's why I'm like, I don't think it's necessarily, hey, this division is terrible. It needs Charlotte. It doesn't need Charlotte, and I think that's the problem. And I'm not saying that to say that she's expendable. I'm saying utilize all the talent you have. Like, you have so much talent. You have so much diverse talent. You don't always have to book her at the top.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's there's hills and valleys with the booking, even for the top guys. And she should be included in that. You're up 1 minute, and then you kind of even out for a bit, then you might dip for a while, then you're lifted back up again. Which sometimes in that company, the hills and valleys become roller coaster rides. I go back to Sheamus being way up here, and then he's down to absolute zero, doing nothing. And then they lift him back up. I'm like, you didn't have to kill the guy. My God, don't take his head off. And then, well, let's give him another shot. But that's how people lose respect. Sal says, I want to see rematch Rhea Ripley. I mean, does Rhea win a rematch? Do you even want Charlotte getting in the same ring with Ripley again? Be honest.
Yeah, and so this scares me because I think at this moment, Rhea has to be one of the favorites to win the Rumble. But that scares me because that means I feel like they're going to do what they did before and take the title off of Asuka right before WrestleMania, and she's going to have nothing to do with WrestleMania. And it's going to be Charlotte as champion at WrestleMania again. And I mean, that's well and fine if Rhea goes over, but it just still feels like they could do better with Asuka. Like, it just seems like they just haven't figured out a way to use her better. I don't know why.
Let's see. Jason hits us with the Fiend Bliss versus Asuka for the title at Mania. I guess the question for me is, could you build Bliss up in that amount of time? I don't know.
I think you can, but I think what is great about what Alexa's doing right now is that she's managed to be a hot act outside of the women's division. So you don't kind of need her to be in a championship picture right now. Like, you could do so many other things with her at the moment. Like, just having her in the ring with Randy has been like one of the best things they've been doing. So it's like, you don't really need to then go, okay, well, let's give her the Rumble win and put her in the championship picture. Like, she doesn't. I take her as somebody that's hot enough at this moment that doesn't need a championship to be hot.
I agree with that. Much in the same way Bray has never really needed a title. I mean, you could have never put a belt on him, and I think it would have been okay. I mean, because I don't know, dude. For me, once you get the top title, you are making the statement, here's the guy, better than everybody else, better than everybody in that locker room, because he's the guy. And if he wasn't, then how'd he get here? So that's why giving it to Goldberg after he doesn't wrestle anymore. I mean, regardless of what you think of Bill, and again, I love Bill, but at the same time, it's that company's way of saying, well, we didn't build anybody. Mania's coming. We're going to do something. Can someone get Bill on the phone? And then next thing you know, he's back. And it's like, why don't you just build some stars? Haven't we been saying for the better part of 6 years, build new stars?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's definitely one of those things. And I mean, I do think that that's an interesting feud, by the way. Alexa versus Asuka at Mania. I do think there's some cool stuff you can do with that, but I don't know. I don't know where do you go with that after that. Like, I can't predict who would go over in that match. And then once she goes, like, for example, if Alexa goes over, are you then going to put her against Charlotte?
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Wasn't it fun when you could almost not predict, but you can kind of see a pattern? And I mean, I don't know. It didn't spoil it for me, but I was like, oh, I see the pattern. I can't wait till they get there. But now I'm like, there's no pattern. There's nothing. They're just flying by the seat of their pants, man.
Oh, you can see a pattern.
Oh, it's a bad pattern. And like, there's no destination. It's just, no, that's not pattern. That's vicious cycle, I guess is what I would call that. Robbie says Charlotte gets pushed while talent like Naomi get lost in the roster. That's WB for you. She and Bianca could be this era's Harlem Heat. I don't hate that, but at the same time, what do you do with them after that? They're only gonna get so far as a team because if this company can't focus on male tag teams, what are they gonna do with the female tag team, dude? Honestly.
Yeah, and I think his point is spot on. I think the reason, because people obviously have their fan favorites who they want to be in top situations, and people like Bianca who have not been there yet. I mean, Bianca hasn't won a single championship with the company yet, which is just wild to me. And at the same time, you're trying to go, oh, we got to put Charlotte back in the top again because Charlotte, I'm always going to be in a title picture. Isn't that what she said on Twitter? So,
yeah.
And I mean, hey, talk that talk, be confident. But it's just like, I don't know, man. Like it just feels like do something different at this point. And I think that a lot of fans feel that way.
I agree totally. I know that the Charlotte topic is not going away, and it just gets to be more tangled, it seems, as the weeks go by. Let's dive into the shows for this past week, kids. We're going to kick off the Blue Brand as always. We're going to give you our 3 SmackDown takeaways of the week. We lead off with Iron sharpens scrap iron. Did you like that? Because it's Adam Pearce and he's scrap iron. I'm just saying. If you know anything about Adam Pearce, he's a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, a very good worker in the ring, solid, is a good guy to have in your locker room. If I were working for a bigger company and said, Tom, you bring in guy, I'd say I want Pearce because he could train my guys. He could be there and advise and maybe even work a match or two. Again, we talk about what's the pattern, what's the destination, what's the end goal, where in the world, if you can submit a guess, where is this going with Roman and Adam Pearce?
I mean, well, clearly he's going to beat him. But I don't know. Like, to me, when you think Royal Rumble matches, like, usually that's like a big marquee match. Like, usually, I mean, it could be we've just gotten spoiled over the last few years. We've gotten stuff like AJ versus Cena at Rumble, and we've gotten like Becky versus Asuka at Rumble. And those are like big, like the big work rate matches. So then you come in and you go, yep, this is where we're going. Adam Pearce with Roman. And then across the street, it's Goldberg and Drew. Okay. And so it feels a little predictable because, like, at this point, Roman's going to win. And it'll probably be a fun match. I think storytelling-wise, Roman hasn't missed yet. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be entertaining. But Roman's going to beat him. Like, there's no way that Adam Pearce is going to beat him.
James pitches in with a way to write Adam Pearce off TV. You may end up being right, but my question is, why go to these links except to get Roman over again as a heel? Which, it's fine. Roman is magnificent right now, and he has been for months. But I'll tell you something. Talk about, God, I'll go back to the word patterns, dude. When Hunter was a stark raving heel, and couldn't touch him, and he was leading Evolution, and my God, he won everything, and every single promo was, I'm bad, I'm evil, and I'm going to kill everybody. And then every week he killed everybody, and the next week he cut the next promo, and then every single moment of every single show was dedicated to, you guys better hate Triple H because, man, is he bad. He's evil. Oh, we hate him. They either don't do enough or they go way too much. And it scares me for Roman's sake that are they going to go too hard with this? You better hate Roman. Now he's beating up an executive who hasn't wrestled in 6 years. Is that what's going on? We got to get Roman over again as a heel.
It sure seems like this is just another way to get some heat on him. And that's fine. I do worry that you're putting him against too many guys that he's going to beat. Like, I mean, you did the Uso thing, and I thought the stuff with Jay was great. But that those matches are predictable. Jay's going to lose. And it's the same thing with Kevin Owens, which Kevin Owens just was fantastic in that feud. But I never felt like Kevin was going to win. And it's the same thing with this. Like, it's like Adam Pearce is going to win this feud. And so at some point, you've got to put him in the match with the big name guys. You've put over the fact that he's the bad guy now. You've done, him beating up on this person and punching down at this person enough. It's got to be somebody on his level at some point.
James, you're going to throw me something else here. Pearce wins, then Miz cashes in. Pearce gave the case back to Miz, turns around, it bites him. If you're going to put the title on Miz, that's not a bad way to do it.
I do think the idea of him cashing in is interesting, but are they still going with that rule that you can only cash in on your brand?
I don't know. That's a good question. And would they really want their history books to say Adam Pearce WWE champion? Even if it was for 5 minutes, he still would have, or Universal champion, excuse me, Adam Pearce Universal, because it would still go in the record books as in the rankings of who held the Universal title. Well, Adam Pearce held it for 7 minutes.
Oh, so his pitch is that Miz would cash in, but it would backfire on the Miz, and Adam Pearce would win.
Well, because all right, so Pearce gave him the briefcase back and said, "Here,
Right.
the rule states, here's your briefcase back." And then so Pearce beats Roman, and then Miz comes down and cashes in, and the whole thing is like, if only Pearce hadn't gave him that case back, Pearce maybe would have, held the title for longer or whatever. It seems convoluted, but you know what? It's the pandemic era where there's no crowds, and if you're going to do something, they're doing all kinds of theatrical stuff. So if you're going to do something different, here's something I do think is going to happen in this match. If it's an actual match, I think Pearce is going to fire up. I think Roman's going to tell him, "You lay down for me," and Pearce is not going to lay down for him. And it's going to be the people home going, "Holy, I like this Adam Pearce guy." I mean, you only probably let it last for a few minutes, but the commentators could even put over, "Hey, look, Adam Pearce wrestled for a lot of years. I mean, we can't discount he's got ability." And then maybe even have him get him some good shots and a good run on Roman until Roman shuts him down. I don't think he's going to lay down for him in the match at all.
You know what it kind of reminds me of, and I think the match is going to be similar. That Drake Maverick and Kanellis feud that was going on 205 Live for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be similar to that. I think it's going to be one of those things where Pearce ends up showing up and showing that he can wrestle, but he's still going to lose. But I mean, of course, Drake won the Kanellis match, but I think it's going to be similar.
James, I don't mean to keep going to you, man, but it's not bad. I see Daniel Bryan coming out to save Pearce. Could be, but I mean, Daniels has made the comment that he's stepping back, so I don't know if they're going to insert him. Jason says either that or Miz chases on Raw because Drew can't fight for COVID-19. All right, so we're flipping all the way back to Drew. Is Drew going to be ready for the Rumble? You think he'll be cleared? Yeah.
Supposedly he's going to wrestle at the Rumble. I mean, his promo this week seemed to imply that he was going to wrestle, so I guess he's going to wrestle.
We'll see what happens.
He doesn't have symptoms, though, so if he quarantines for a few weeks, he should be fine.
Yeah, I would think so. My second takeaway from SmackDown this past week, Shinsuke Nakamura's strong style. Because, again, dude, I say to you, you take a guy and, look at him, ha, and then you go, ha, you suck. You're back at the bottom. And then all of a sudden, ha, look. So it seesaw time again. And this time they do with Nakamura. And suddenly he looks like $1 million. He looks like King of Strong Style, like he should look anyway. Is this all just blowing hot air? Are they making me believe in him to just not do anything with him later? What do you think?
Well, I just wonder what is the end goal? Because to me, I thought he was going to win the match. Well, no, I didn't. Once you establish that Adam Pearce was in the match, you already know that Adam Pearce was going to win the match. But once he had this long run in the gauntlet, I mean, he looked great. And Nakamura is one of those guys that I'm totally confused with them. They turned him heel for some reason, and he's just such a great face. I don't know why they did that. You talk about one of the most over guys on the roster at one point. I still show people his first entrance on SmackDown all the time because, good Lord, like that pop it just was incredible.
Huge.
And to just see them completely squander all the goodwill that he came in with was just so crushing. I mean, even his Rumble win, it was just such a feel-good moment for him. And then to just go from that and go, nope, he's going to lose at Mania, and we're going to give you, diminishing returns with this AJ Styles feud. And it's been kind of like that with everything he does. Everything he does, I'm kind of fingers crossed, like, okay, well, he's U.S. champion. Well, that's not that great. All right, he's IC champion now. Not that great. So I'm now leery with everything they do. I want him to succeed because he's one of my favorite wrestlers. I loved him with New Japan, but I don't know. Like, to me, if the end goal is for him to be a favorite to win the Rumble, I'm fine with that. The idea of him being a 2-time Rumble winner and challenging Roman at Mania is cool. Do I think they're going to go with that? Probably not. But the idea of it is cool. But other than that, I don't know what is the end goal. I mean, if the end goal is to make us excited for Roman versus Shinsuke, you got to eventually give us that match.
And I think the running theme of today's episode has been, we don't know what's going to happen. We can't see the final destination. And look, as a fan, I don't want or need the curtain peeled back so often that I go, God, this is so predictable. I don't want that. But the fun of getting to the destination should be the ride. And more often than not, for me, the ride in this company is not fun. It's not every week. It's the same stuff. And it's, this again. And then at that point, I don't even care about what the destination is. But for Nakamura, I do care. But the ride has not been good. And now all of a sudden with one show, he's being booked like a megastar again. I'm like, I love it. But dude, where was this booking a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Well, Shinsuke is one of those guys where you can it not going to take much to heat him up. He is just the guy is a star. So you can do something like this gauntlet match and make him a face again. If that's what this means, that he's going to turn face again, I'm all for that because he should be a face. But as far as what does this mean match-wise, logic would dictate that this means he should be heading up to face Roman at some point because this is kind of the same way that we got to Kofi Mania, him doing so great in the gauntlet match and losing and getting the fans excited for him to be in a marquee match. So maybe that's where this is heading. I wouldn't hold my breath for that. But the idea of Shinsuke versus Roman at Mania is interesting to me. I would be for that match.
I'll take it. I think it's a great match, and I think it's a great headliner. I'd love that. And you know, so end game, destination, final arrival point, whatever you want to call it. Who's making noise? AEW. Who else is making noise? New Japan. Who you gonna put your title on if you're Vince McMahon? Let's put it on their Japanese guy. That'll show them.
That would be his spiteful way of doing it and
Yes.
doing it way too late when he should have won at Mania that year. That was the time. Should have beat Jinder. I'm not going to go into a rant about that, but, you know.
I mean, I think, honestly, I think that might be where we're headed because in his mind, well, we'll show him. We'll show him. Yeah, we took one of your top guys and now he's holding my title because I say so and my time on my schedule. Just so much vindictiveness going on. Billy, what's up? Billy says Nakamura's enjoying the lighter schedule, lighter physicality on his body, and more money. I don't think he's worried about his status. No, Billy, I don't think either one of us are saying he's worried about anything. Nak is happy. He should be happy. Good for him and his family. And by the way, he's earned the right to be happy at his age in this business. He put a lot of years in and worked his way up and did it the hard way. I mean, anybody that gets out of New Japan's dojo, my God, I mean, you know, from a young boy up to superstar, yeah, he's earned this. I just think as fans, for a lot of us, we just would like to see better for him status wise. I think that's kind of what we're saying here.
Yeah, and you know, I've seen a lot of people say that he's fine because he doesn't have to work a heavy schedule. I mean, you can argue that his schedule is a little bit heavier because he's doing more matches than he was for New Japan, and he's on TV more frequently. But at the same time, when somebody signs from a niche place like New Japan and they come to the big stage, we want them to be on the big stage. And Nakamura is a once in a lifetime superstar. I would be hard pressed outside of Asuka to name a Japanese superstar that signed with WWE that have reached his heights. And so to me, it should be a no-brainer to make this guy your champion at some point. Like, this is the closest you're going to get to a Japanese WWE champion. Why not go for it, even if it's just for a short reign?
And he would be the first Japanese WWE champion.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and there again, it's 2021. Why can't we just do this? Why does it? I don't know.
You had two Japanese Royal Rumble winners that year, and you had both of them lose. You do that.
Man, if you say it that way, it sounds even worse. I've never really pieced that together, but yeah, they are, and they did. And what? Yeah, I don't get it. I mean,
I understand that.
I don't know. And I think Nakamura has proven, if nothing else, he's proven he is a company guy. He proved it in New Japan, and he's proven it in WWE. He does whatever they tell him to. Hey, we want you to go out and act like you can't speak English, and we're just going to kind of tease you a little bit, make a little bit of fun of you, because that's what we do here. And he's like, whatever, man. I'll play along. And he plays along, and he does it because he's good, and he gets it over because he's great. And at some point, he's up on that stuff. I don't know. I mean, is it entertaining? Sure, for 5 minutes. And it's like, then you remember what he's capable of, and you're like, he can do so much more. Moving on here, we've had the Sammy's name mentioned a lot, and I'm going to give you this little tiny rant, and I'm going to throw it to you. I love what he's doing. I love the jacket. I love the hat. I love the beard. I love the conspiracy. I love everything about. I love that he has his own documentary camera guys, whatever he's doing. I love the shirt that's, on the intercom, I love it. I love everything he does. I love how he interacts with faces. He's not a vile, contemptible piece of garbage. He'll have a conversation with anybody, but he's paranoid. I guess the bottom line here is I love it. However, I loved it when R-Truth did it. And I've loved it when other guys have done it. But the same thing with Truth. Where is this going? Why can't I? It's great, but if there's no goal in mind, if there's no journey, if it's just and we're just, let's just book him because it's fun. But where are we heading? Is he going to a title? Is he not going? I mean, I guess what I'm saying is this is great for a while, and it's fun, it's entertaining, but I don't know. Is there meat on the bone, or is this just, just let him do this because he's real good at it?
I can't complain too much with the Sammy stuff because he had been doing nothing for so long, and he had been getting beat up and humiliated for so long. And he guys coming up from NXT that I always felt like you can do so much with this guy. He's such a likable guy. There's so much you can do with him as a face. And this heel thing he's doing where it's basically Che Guevara is just fantastic. I thought the stuff he was doing with the Intercontinental title where he was basically doing the, evil foreigner gimmick, but doing it in a different way was great. And so taking the title off of him was an interesting decision. I think it was a little too soon. I think you could have ran with him with the title all the way into Mania. But I get that they are trying to do something to heat up Big E as well. But it just, I don't know. I just feel like it was too soon to take the title off of Sammy because now it's kind of like, well, what do you do with him in the meantime? Because you're not going to put him in your main title picture because you're not going to put him over Roman. So I don't know. I don't know what do you do with him now. If the plan is to just give him the IC title back somewhere down the line, what was the point of taking the title off of him? I don't know. There were so many times where I felt like as a heel, they had that moment. Like the idea of Sammy winning Money in the Bank was just so great. And I just was married to this idea at one point and then it just didn't happen. So I don't know. I kind of feel like the Big E stuff, they have been kind of prepping us to go. Everybody's been saying they want Big E. Well, I won't say everybody, but a good amount of people have been saying they want Big E to win the Rumble. So I feel like with the way they put all this pomp and circumstance on it on Christmas and gave him like the confetti and everything, it almost felt like they were preparing us to go like, this is it. This is the ceiling for a singles run. He's not going to win the Rumble like you guys want him to, and he's not going to Mania, and he's not going to face Roman. It's almost what that felt like to me. And I hope I'm wrong, but that's what it felt like.
It's just like them hanging up a big banner saying, we're not going to give it to you. Everybody calm down. You're not going to get it. Yeah, you're right. And
I was just going to say, I almost put it over as his biggest win of his career. And I'm like, you could have put him on a level and gave him an even bigger win at Mania in a few months.
And the flip side of this is, can he run around screaming conspiracy if he's got a title? Maybe, but it's probably more effective if he doesn't have one. So I'll bite and say, okay, fine, take the belt off of him.
That's true.
Then on the other flip side is, okay, this is a gimmick that he can use anytime. It's evergreen. You can use it no matter what brand you're on. No matter if you're heel or face, you could still kind of use it, honestly. You could be in between and still use it. Everyone's out to get me. Can't you see? There's shadows everywhere, and I know people are planning and plotting. So I guess you can go back to it anytime you want to. I guess for me, I'm always the bigger picture guy. I'm just thinking, this is great, but like you said, man, he wasn't on TV for the longest time. They didn't use him for the longest time. So now that they're using him, let's make this mean something. But my expectations are a bit high. Jason, says Sammy versus Kevin Owens again. So I'm gonna let you take this first. What's your response to that?
I think they should keep them away from each other for a while. We've seen that match so many times. They're a feud that you can revisit enough because there's plenty of meat on that feud. There's ways you can go back to it, but I don't think now is the time to do that, especially because Kevin doesn't really have anything to really run on at this point. Like, I feel like he is one of the better faces they have at the moment. He's super charismatic, like he's super relatable and likable, but you've got to give him something big in order for Sammy to come back and feud with him for. Like, if he wins a title and then you revisit that feud, then it makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm reminded of what Punk said about Bryan back in the day when he said, Daniel Bryan and I should be kept as far away from each other as possible, because when we come together, it'll always be money, it'll always be good, and we'll always deliver. It's the same thing with Owens and Zayn. You don't need to book these guys against each other anymore. If you have a hole, if you have an opening and the timing's right, then you can do it and it'll work. It'll get over. But it's not something, Rick versus Dusty worked for a long time. And I can't remember a time that it didn't work. But they would take breaks from each other. Rick would work somebody else, Dusty would work somebody else. And eventually they'd come back together. And that's one of the things why, if you have guys touching each other constantly, after a while it's going to be, I've seen this match, what else you got? So that's true with the greats as well. Yep. Let's see, another co-star showing up today, kids. Hello, son. Why are you wet? Is it raining? Come here, son. Say hello to Phil.
Hi.
How you doing?
My audience knows this as the boy. That's how they know him. So there you go. You all right? Okay. Okay, it's not raining, is it? All right. I'm going to do the show.
All right.
Love you. We'll see. Real life. Now back to make-believe life. 3 Raw takeaways of the week. I like to quote pop culture stuff. You know me, Phil, by now enough to know this is an absolute fact. At the end of Spaceballs, stay with me. When they get back on Planet Vespa? They get back on the planet, and the priest says, "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here together again." That's why I'm leading with this. Triple H back again, once again, and this is the part where everyone in the Rogues Gallery says Tom's crapping on the company again. Once again, we go back to the past, or the near past, or the present past, or whatever he is, and let's put him on TV, and let's put him in a match, pal. Wear your jeans and get out there and fight Randy. I don't know. It
wasn't even a match. I don't know what it was.
I don't know what it was.
It was an unsanctioned fight. It almost looked like. I don't know.
So what purpose was served by this happening? What do you think?
I don't know. I was sitting there for the first half hour after he did it, and I was like, okay, are they going to explain what he was here to announce? Because they never told us that. He just was like, I'm here on official business. And then Orton came out and interrupted him. And he never got back to his business while he was there. They never talked about it later in the show. It was just completely done away with. It was weird. And their promo together was, it says a lot about the way that they think they should book their shows when he comes out and he applauded Orton for doing what he had to do with The Fiend. And I was like, yes, that's what the message should be to your fan base, is that we should be happy that Orton is at the forefront again, and this new, hot, interesting character got beaten by Orton. Okay. And don't get me wrong, I thought that stuff was fine. I thought the ending of that match looked great. Talk about a great visual of the Fiend laying in the mat burning. Cool. But to just come on and they are both, kind of rubbing each shoulders, like, yeah, you sure showed that Bray Wyatt guy. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I've been pulling hair out little by little because I don't want to lose it all since Monday, trying to figure out what in the world all of that was for. And the only answer I got for you, number one, we got to pop a rating, pal. Number two, we don't really have anybody else. Who can we put in this spot? Hey, you want to do it? I mean, it feels like the Goldberg thing. We're just like, hey, Hunter's here anyway. You want to go out there and do something?
I forgot, supposedly more people tested positive for COVID than we know. So maybe they didn't have that many people available, and maybe that was their way of filling in time by having Triple H in there. But it was weird. It just didn't really work.
I'll take that. I'm not happy. It's not going to satisfy me, but you know what? If that's the best they got, I'll take that. And I'm not going to hate on it. If that was the grand plan, I mean, I've seen and heard much worse from them. So I guess I won't hate on it too much. Ray's going to bring it all home for us. They are crushing Riddle. Keith Lee will never be champ, and Flair versus Lacey is just stupid. By the way, Adam Cole is king. Ray, next time, don't hold back. Don't be subtle. Just tell us what you really think. So there you go. I'm not even going to address all that. It's a bunch to unpack. But Ray, thank you as always for watching. Let's see. Let's go on to the next one. And Phil, you mentioned it a little bit. Let's talk about House of Fire on Raw. Alexa Bliss with the most amazingly stunning fireball that the human eyes ever beheld. Hey, listen, you know what I think? I think this is karma for Randy Orton stealing the Garvin Stomp years ago and them naming it the Orton Stomp. All right. Because what happened to Ronnie? Burned up by Jim Cornette with a fireball. Hey, I'm just saying. Karma comes around. It's come full circle, Phil. Randy's getting what he deserved years ago. So are we going to see bandages on Orton this coming Monday? What do you think?
They reported that he has, they put out their injury report and, that he suffered some burns and he might be out this week. It was one of those things where it was so hokey and stupid looking that it was hilarious and entertaining. But this was at the conclusion of a very, very bad episode of Raw. And yes. So I think I enjoyed it in that moment just as something to laugh at. Like, of course, like, yep, that's how we're ending it.
And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
Hot garbage.
I'm just saying. There you go. I love Randy. I do. And anytime I criticize anything involving Randy, I make sure to preface my comments with, I'm good with Randy. I really am. He's a company guy. He's going to retire there, and it's all good. It's whatever. He's in phenomenal shape. He can still work. He can still go. He can still get over and make you hate everything he says and does because he's that good. It's not directed at him. I just, he burned up Bray. He threatened to burn up Alexa. Now she burned him up. Now they're going to burn the ring up, and they're going to set the screens on fire, and then they're all going to be on fire. And it's that meme where everything's on fire, and the guys in the chair going, "This is fine." That's going to be what Raw turns into, is that big meme right there. I don't know. It's messed up. I mean, again, I'm anxious to see where this is going. Here is my third personal Raw takeaway of the week. Maybe you'll have a negative or positive on this. Considering what he's capable of, and yes, I know he's older. Yes, I know he's not the 20-year-old Jeff Hardy anymore. But you and I both know if they call his number and say, "See that 40-foot ladder? We need you to dive off it blindfolded, twist in the air, and go through 3 flaming tables." He'll go, "Cool, I'll do it. Can I have 2 blindfolds on?" Because Jeff will do anything and for the sake of getting the match over, not necessarily himself, but getting the product over, the show, the brand, whatever, you name it. Are they using him properly right now? Is him versus Elias doing anything for you?
No, absolutely not. The stuff with Elias, it should have been over after they had the rubber match where the Symphony of Destruction match should have been over there. There's no reason to put those guys in the ring again after that. Like there's nothing left of this feud at that point. Having him get pinned by Riker before that also was very strange, and it just was weird. So Riker rolled him up, and then they did this a few times in the episode. They were like, "Oh, we're not done here. There's another match right now. Get back down here because I can beat you, Elias." And then he beats Elias. I was like, so Elias's heater beat Jeff, but then Jeff just beat Elias? What purpose did that serve? Like, what did that do for either of them? That didn't do anything for anybody.
Nothing. And he's still there. He's got a job. Hopefully he's straight and hopefully he's good. And I want him to be straight and healthy. I really, truly do. Because I've always liked Jeff and I've always liked Matt. The fact that those two guys seem to be on the straight and narrow, I cannot be happier for both of them. And that's a true statement. Right. I just go back to the days when he was facing Punk and it was so over and he was so good. And now I'm like, I'm thinking, well, you're not building anybody else. And you feel the need to bring Goldberg back. Jeff Hardy's in your locker room, for crying out loud. You mean to tell me Jeff can't give Drew McIntyre a good match for the title? Are you kidding me right now? Oh,
you could easily do an interesting Jeff versus Lashley match if you wanted to.
Absolutely.
So many things with Jeff, and they're just, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. It almost feels like, hey, we better keep this guy. We better keep him around. We don't want him to end up with Matt over there. So let's just keep him here.
That's it. That's it. Exactly. That's no doubt. Here's the ratings for this past week, kids. This week's SmackDown 2.03 compared to 2.013 from last week. This week's Raw 1.82 compared to 2.13. I always flash the ratings up and then just tell the crowd here, it's up to you whether or not you care. Most people don't really care about it. But it's information anyway. Let's talk about some AEW. You're tuned into this pretty well because I know you've been following Impact. What's your thoughts on the cleaner being a Hard to Kill?
I think this is great. I mean, man, if you would have told me even 2 months ago that we were going to see Kenny Omega headlining an Impact pay-per-view, I'd be like, what are you talking about? So I think just the idea of him headlining a pay-per-view with the Good Brothers and just the fact that those three are doing something together is cool in itself. And I'm really happy for Rich Swann, too. I mean, you talk about a guy that a few months ago, I mean, past that, he had that really bad ankle injury. It looked like he might have been done. Comes back and gets the biggest win of his career against Eric Young. And, like, now you're in a feud with Kenny Omega. I think that's great.
Timothy loves this part of the show. He only watches the whole show to get to the AEW part. I respect that. It's all good. And we spoke before about this, you and I have, about, I think we kind of got the feeling that the end goal here is AEW versus Impact in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
But just because I have an idea of where the destination is doesn't mean I'm not going to enjoy the journey. That was kind of my point with WWE. I'm enjoying the journey. Now, if I told you that I understood why the Bucks are heel the next week, they ain't heel. I mean, that kind of stuff kind of gets under my skin a little bit. But having said that, are we conditioned by the WWE machine to expect things and not expect things? And when we see another company on the mainstream level do it their way, we're so used to seeing it from the other company that we dismiss it, or we don't like it or love it even based on being, you know what I mean, swayed by the way the other company's done it for 30 years.
Yeah, I can see that, because I think just based on what we know, when all five of them got together the week before, it would have been really easy to come out and just bring all five of them out and do like a big beatdown this week. And they kind of furthered the story and did some stuff with Callis and, teased the possible splintering of the group already. And I think that's an interesting way to go, because, I mean, that immediately opens the door for the Good Brothers versus Young Bucks. I mean, you already have the door open for Omega versus Swann at some point. Mm-hmm. But just the idea of two champion versus champion matches now, that's interesting.
Sal hits us with this. What do you think of Matt Stryker and D'Lo Brown, new full-time commentary on Impact? What's your thoughts, Phil? What do you think?
I think it's great. I like D'Lo a lot. I'm interested to see how he does on commentary. Impact's commentary is very hit or miss for me sometimes. I don't really care for Josh Matthews on commentary. I thought Madison was doing a good job, but other than that, I didn't really care for their commentary that much.
I think Stryker's underrated. I really do. I
Yeah.
think he's caught a lot of grief, and he's caught backhanded comments from some names about he rants too much and he's too analytical. And I'm like, I don't see that at all. Like, I get why they're saying it, but at the same time, you talk about a guy who's ready to do his job. I've never felt like Matt Stryker was unprepared to call a match ever.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested to see because I think it's telling that they would bring in that commentary team for the pay-per-view. So I think that just tells me that they're ready to, move forward and do other things with their programming. So I think it's a good thing.
And before we move on, Sugar Shane hits us with this. Do not be surprised if you see Omega with both Impact and AEW titles and then fights Nick Aldis. Shane, my friend, you've won the No Prize for Tom Clark's main event this week. Check your mailbox. It's on the way. I love this. I mean, Kenny Omega versus Nick Aldis. I just want to get to the last bit. That's what I want to see. Dude, talk about a match, man. That would be, oh my God. I'm drooling now just thinking about it.
The easy link I see in this is they've had Moose in the midst of this the whole time, kind of running around as unofficial TNA champion. I wouldn't be surprised if all this stuff with Omega is a way to unify those titles. And he ends up with both those titles in some way. Maybe there's like a triple threat match somewhere down the line and he unifies the titles.
There you go. We'll see what happens. Larry hits us with this. I like everything about AEW Impact crossover. The only thing I'm sick of is seeing Tony Khan on Impact or Tony Khan at all. I'm going to disagree with you. I respect your opinion. Thank you for it. I love seeing Tony's promos with Shivani on Impact. I love it so much because he's such a jerk, and he's supposed to be. But to his point, to Larry's point here, Phil, is Tony being mentioned and being shown on Dynamite too much, you think?
No, I get why people are worried because you don't want this to turn into your owner becoming a on-air personality. I don't think he has done anything that has, looked like he is just putting himself over any of the wrestlers yet. I like the fact that on Impact, he has been outside of wrestling. He's always in those like commercial or ad spots. When he was on AEW, all the stuff he did with the tribute stuff was tremendous. And it didn't feel like he was ever getting involved in any of the wrestling angles. And I think that's the way to go. Like, now, do I think that's going to last forever? No. I think he's eventually going to end up in a wrestling angle. But I think for now, just keeping him out of the wrestling storylines is the best way to go.
I agree with that. I cringe a little bit. But, honestly, man, for me, maybe it goes back to my previous statement of we have such a history from WWE that when we see that kind of thing creeping into other companies, we get like hand from a hot stove. You're just like, oh, God, I don't want that. Yeah. But, dude, as I've told you before, this company has very rarely ever let me down personally as a fan. So until they start doing it, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And people can make of that whatever they want to. Another AEW thing happening this week. Again, more Darby Allin and Sting. Sting getting physically involved this time for the first time, I think, ever in that company. I mean, freaking crushing. God, help me out. Name? What's it? I can't remember his name.
Ricky Starks.
God bless it. How did I forget that? Basically crushing his windpipe, and Ricky Starks is still in the ICU. That's a joke. But, man, he smashed him, didn't he? And it's like, okay. So, again, dude, the theme of this whole show has been, what's the end goal? Is Sting going to work a match? Let me throw it to you that way.
Well, he's absolutely going to work a match. There's no way you sign him to that big long-term contract and he's not going to work a match. He's wrestling. It seems like they are building to him versus Cody. That seems like the match.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that makes sense in a lot of ways. Can I say that I'm super excited about that? Not really, but I I'm interested to see how they handled it. I'm pretty much in wait and see mode.
I can see Sting versus Cody, and I know Cody would protect him and take care of him. And I think Sting wouldn't do anything that he couldn't do. I don't think you'd see Sting coming off top rope, or maybe you would. Maybe Sting would be like, "Hey, I'm gonna leave it all out there. Why not?"
I mean, we've seen crazier things. I mean, a few years ago, did we think Daniel Bryan would ever be in a ring again? No. I mean, did we think Edge would ever be in a ring again? So I mean, we've seen crazier things.
Listen, if Terry Funk can piece himself back together with toothpicks, duct tape, and chicken wire in his 60s and make you sit at home and go, "Oh my God, that was amazing." Sting can do a match with Cody Rhodes. Come on.
Yeah. So I'm waiting to see. I know people are trying to get their gotcha moment off and go, "Oh, you guys are mad about Goldberg being back, but you're fine with Sting." I think it's kind of different because Sting is not in a title picture. He's not in the main event scene. He's just there. And I think the way they've used Sting has been interesting so far. I think the presentation looks great. His entrance always looks really great. But I think at some point you've got to push the button and do something story-wise with him. Him doing these entrances every week is going to get old.
Let's see. Marion, you've been very patient. Thank you for being patient. Sting is a good wrestler. I'm happy that Sting is back with all that snow. I love the entrance. That winter is coming stuff. I didn't know how much I wanted him to come out with that, but God, it's awesome. There's just something about it. Shane with the take, Miro's a beast. Miro needs to fight Brian Cage. We could do a whole pod on Miro seems to be happy. He's much happier being in that company. And be patient, kids, and we're going to hope that there's something coming for him. I mean, I hope there is too. So again, we will bide our time and see what happens. Let's move to the black and gold brand real quick before we take it home today. Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher. Are we eventually just going to see these guys as a tag team? Because it's kind of feeling that way. Am I wrong?
I have no idea what NXT is doing with their tag teams. They are just kind of like throwing any and everybody together, it seems like. So I wouldn't be surprised if they end up as a tag team.
And Thatcher cutting a promo is all kinds of funny because he cannot talk. No disrespect. If he heard me say that, he'd go, "I take disrespect to that, Tom." But I don't mean it that way. I just mean that, especially looking across the table from Ciampa, who can send chills down your spine. I don't know how he does it. That gravelly voice and the way he looks at you, those freaking eyes. God, I like Thatcher a lot. I see these two ending up together after what do they call that thing? The fight pit. We'll see what happens, but I think there'll be a sign of respect at the end, and there'll be Thatcher will come out and save Ciampa, or Ciampa will save him from a beatdown. Next thing you know, they're tagging and winning the belts. I think I see it coming. One more before we give you the ratings and try to get out of here. Be honest. Xia Li's gimmick is, what do you think? See, you start off again with the breath. That says everything.
Look, NXT's women's division is incredible. They've got so much talent in that division. They are producing the best matches on most of the cards, most days. The Rhea and Raquel Gonzalez stuff has been great. Io has been putting on great matches as champion. But why on earth do they keep turning all of their women heel? It's like every woman on that roster has gone through some kind of dark makeover. It's just it looks formulaic at this point. Like, I mean, almost every woman you could name outside of like Shotzi at this point has had a dark makeover. And it's just like, I love Xia. I think she's great. I thought she was great when they first introduced her. So if this means she's going to be on TV more and they have plans for her, I'm all for it. But this turning everybody heel thing, at some point, you've got to position some faces on that roster, because who is your face at this point? Ember and Io? Shotzi? There you go. 3.
Rhea?
Yeah, Rhea's moving on. Like, Rhea's out of there. There's no way they're keeping her on NXT much longer.
Yeah. It's just so choreographed, and I shouldn't lose sleep over it, because instead of we kind of know what to expect from them because it's showbiz. But when she and Bo, like the camera zooms in on the Sister Abigail chick on the throne, whoever she is, and then the camera backs up and Zaya and Bo are just there, and then they suddenly turn and walk at the same time. And then when the match is over, they get on the floor and they both look at the ring. And at the same time, they both look back at the throne. Ugh, I don't know, dude. It's just so. And turn action. It just, that kind of stuff just makes me nuts. I don't know why I get so hung up on it. I shouldn't, but it just doesn't feel organic in the slightest. It's so hokey and staged. And last night I'm asking myself, would we see this with an arena full of 20,000 people? Would this be happening now with a full capacity crowd? Or is this one of those, hey, we could try something and see if it works? What do you think?
Well, I will give them credit with this thing. This definitely feels like old school NXT, where they would put somebody out there and let them develop. This definitely feels like a project. And I think that has been missing from NXT for a while because they've had a lot of mainstays hanging around and they're not moving a lot of people up. So they're not developing some of their other people. So on that token, I am glad that they're just trying and seeing what sticks with Zaya. But yeah, I think it's going to take it a while to, manifest into something really interesting.
I'll tell you what I think NXT's missing right now.
Cameron Grimes.
I think NXT's missing Cameron Grimes. I was just trying to find a way to work the button in. That's all. I don't know. We don't spend any time on this, but I freaking love Cameron Grimes. I just love him. He's a Carolina boy, so I had to love that. And my God, I can't say enough good things about him. He's a breath of fresh air. I think it works because he's good in the ring. Number two, he's in his own little world. And I think that's why I always go back to Truth. How's our Truth still over with that silliness? Because our Truth never breaks character. He has never winked at the camera. He's never been, you guys know I'm just making this up, right? Never. And I think that's why people are still like, God, I love that R-Truth. He's so funny. I think that's why Cameron is over the way he is, because he's never broke character ever. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I love him, man. Let's hit the ratings here real quick, kids, before we open the floor and then get out of here and enjoy the rest of our Friday. This week, AEW with a substantial victory, 762 to 551 versus neck and neck, 662 to 641. Again, I give you the numbers. You can love them or hate them or talk about them or not talk about them. It's completely up to you guys. Let's open that floor because everybody's been patient and we've run way over, but it's all good. You guys have nothing to do, right? You got nothing else to do except listen to us, right? So there you go. Marion says, I love you guys. Well, Marion, very kind of you. Thank you very much. Timothy says, I need a sting button. I might make that happen. Oh, Shannon, you know what Shannon's looking for, right? Where's Cameron Grimes going, Shannon?
I'm going to the moon.
Tell me you don't love that. At this point, I just do the show as an excuse to hit buttons. That's really all I do it for. Let's see. What you guys got until we get out of here, man? Any real quick things? And don't sit there and say, tell me how you would have booked Hulk Hogan in the 80s. Don't hit me with anything big and intricate. But, Ray with a question for Phil. Will Adam Cole be champ again? And is Kobe Bryant the GOAT? It's double loaded, Phil. Go.
Well, Kobe Bryant is a student of the GOAT, Michael Jordan.
Thank you.
So that's an easy question there. But I think Kobe is one of the greatest ever. I very much hate that his passing is what it took for people to appreciate him more. He's definitely one of all-time greats. Adam Cole as champion, I'm interested to see how long is it going to take them to move Undisputed Era up, or if they ever move them up. Because I think at some point you've got to start moving some of those core guys off NXT. I know we've heard all the rumblings that Gargano and Ciampa don't want to leave NXT, and there are other guys that are trying to be NXT lifers, but you got to make a decision on what you want NXT to be. If it's a developmental brand, then you've got to start moving these guys up. If it's a third brand, then whatever, you can shuffle these guys around, but at some point you've got to make a decision on that. And so to answer your question, I don't see Adam Cole as champion again anytime soon, but that all depends on how long he stays there.
So here's an idea, and they'll never do it because it would be Vince basically admitting that the developmental brand, as they call it, is better than the red brand. Can you imagine if for a couple of weeks they started promoting in 2 weeks, this coming Monday for one time only, it's Monday Night NXT. NXT will take Monday night's time slot. It will not be Monday Night Raw, be Monday Night NXT. I wonder if they would ever have the guts to do it. And number two, how big that rating would be. Do you think they would kill it, or would it be the same, or what do you think?
Well, I think it would drop because some people are just so used to Raw, and like some people just don't want something different. They're not going to watch it if it changes. But I do think you're right in a sense that if you're going to put NXT on network television, you have to treat it like it's a network television show. And they're kind of not doing that now. Like, it's on network television and they're trying to, spruce it up by adding all these big matches. Like, we've never seen as many stipulation matches on NXT, like this cage matches, all this stuff. But it doesn't feel like a third brand because they don't really treat it like the big profile thing that it doesn't feel like SmackDown or Raw in the sense that it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere as far as its own thing. Like you don't come out of NXT going, ooh, who from NXT is coming to the Rumble, right? You didn't feel that way around Survivor Series either.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good take too. It should be, and I don't know. Has the company done a good enough job of making it clear to us this is developmental, pal, or no, this is the third brand? Because they'll say one thing and then they'll display it another way. So
yeah,
to me, it's the third brand, in my opinion.
It should be a third brand, but it's kind of developmental, but it's kind of not because like a lot of those guys don't need development kids. They're indie wrestlers and they were already stars somewhere else.
Right. Absolutely. Paul with a great question off the wall. Do you think we'll see No Way Jose again? Possible Rumble surprise. Did something happen with Jose that I can't remember? Did something?
He got released. He got released. With all those people that got released in April.
I was thinking there was some other bit of news that followed after that, but maybe there wasn't. There was so much news last year.
There was that rumor for a long time that they were going to re-sign him, but nothing ever came of it. I don't know. I like Jose as a gimmick. I think it's just a fun gimmick that it's just one of those things like a lot of stuff we would see during the Attitude Era where there would be like a fun supporting character or a character that was just around backstage and they would just show up. And I like Jose in that role. So I wouldn't mind seeing him show up in the Rumble.
I liked him a lot. Great smile, great personality, great physique. I thought he could go. I liked him fine. Timothy says, what do y'all take with the Inner Circle this past Wednesday? Every time these guys get in the ring, I am crazy entertained, and they play off of each other so well. And Jack Swagger talking about championships. He just kept yelling it, and they're all like, okay, we got you. It's great. Dude, they've gotten better with MJF, which you kind of think, well, they've got good chemistry. How's MJF going to do? He blends in. I love it, man. They're not going to keep it together forever, right? But what's your take on that spot from Wednesday?
I thought it was very entertaining, but I was sitting there. Well, first of all, I was like, yes, Santana, tell the truth. You guys are the tag team of this stable. Make it known that you should be a title picture again. But I think it's only a matter of time before those guys, Proud and Powerful and Sammy, eventually break off and do their own thing. Those two acts have face written all over them, especially Sammy. You could just see him being like a big time face.
Oh, yeah. He's so pretty. That's, in any old school 1980s promoter would have said, oh my God, we're putting that kid in the first match. The women are going to love him. Because it's, dude, crazy. I can always count on Ray with some music questions. Redman or Busta Rhymes? I'm going to say Busta. What do you think, Phil?
It's an interesting question. I'm going to go with Redman because I think Redman is underrated lyrically.
I agree.
I think Busta probably, if you wanted to really look at it, he probably has a better discography.
I would say Busta is WWE and maybe Redman is AEW. Busta's more over the top and in your face and entertaining, a showman. And Redman's a showman as well, but he's more understated and kind of hangs back. And yeah, I totally get that. Let's see. Alma, what's up? Says Rock and Roll Express going to the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, as well as Tommy Rich, Scandal Akbar, and Tony Atlas. And Alma, it begs the question, what took so long to get all these guys in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame? Because that Hall of Fame has existed for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Crazy. It took that long to get all those big names in there. Let's see. Let's see. Who else? Cherie. No one from NXT needs to be brought up to Raw or SmackDown at this time. Too many superstars are not being unionized as it is. Good point. It's an excellent point. They've already got a locker room full of talent without COVID, obviously, but there are already people sitting there not doing much. I mean, does she make a point?
I think she does to a degree, because I think the roster overall is very crowded, and they keep signing more and more people by the day. I think it's just a very crowded roster. I think a lot of their woes creatively would be fixed if they downsize their roster by quite a bit. But I do think that they need to move some women up from NXT. If the last time I checked, there are over 20 women on NXT, and there's not even close to as many on Raw. And they were doing all Alana stuff for a long time, and they were trying to make it seem like, oh, we don't have anybody to challenge Asuka. Okay, then you have all these people in this developmental brand. Move one of them up to Raw. That doesn't mean they have to move a lot of women up, but I think Rhea's an easy choice. Rhea should move on. There's nothing else she can do. She's won both NXT Women's Championships. It's time. It's time to move her on.
Absolutely. Let's see. Shannon with a very loaded question. Phil, do you watch New Japan?
Absolutely watch New Japan. Wrestle Kingdom was awesome. If you haven't watched it yet, you should. Ospreay versus Okada was amazing. Kota put on 2 great matches. Can't say enough good things. Hiromu also put on 2 great matches.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it as well. I really dig it. We talked a lot about Jay White too the other day, or whenever it was. Yeah, great guy. Great stuff. Brendan says, do you think Lemmy or Motorhead should go in WWE Hall of Fame? If any celebrity needs to be inducted, it's them. 100%. Absolutely. I'm a huge Motorhead guy. I love Lemmy to death. I don't know how it's not even happened yet. I have no clue. Clowns they put in that so-called Hall of Fame, but they can't. But I mean, listen, Hunter and Lemmy were tight, man. I mean, Hunter's got stories, and you listen to him talk, and he loved that guy. They loved each other. I mean, how in the world that hasn't happened? Just as a symbolic gesture, if nothing else, I would say absolutely make it happen.
I definitely could see him getting put in the Hall of Fame. If we learned anything this week, well, last week, after we saw the Snoop splash, you've got to get Snoop Dogg in your Hall of Fame immediately.
Yes. Someone last week said, was that a splash or a knee drop? I said it was a knee splash. Are you kidding?
I don't know what it was, but the memes that came out of that thing were fantastic.
Yeah. And it sounds so weird to say stuff like this because it's like dorky to say it. I love that Cody's warming up to the celebrities because I like Cody, and I want my pro wrestling guys to warm up to the mainstream media because that's better for the company and better for business. It really is. I mean, we're not talking about Snoop Dogg fighting in a match in a tag team with Cody. We might one day, I don't know, but we're not really talking about that. It's just a fun spot. Let him have his moment. They're promoting the other show.
Yeah.
Timothy hits you with, Phil, do you see Sammy versus MJF having a feud for a long time?
I think that's definitely the feud coming out of this when they eventually break up Inner Circle. I think that the match, it's going to be interesting to see what are the stakes for it because they've managed to keep MJF out of their world title picture by putting him in Inner Circle and kind of distracting us from the fact that he's at the top of the ranking. So I'm wondering, like, if you're going to do versus MJF, like, where are you positioning that?
Good question. Yeah. And like we said earlier, I'm anxious for when Sammy turns face because I think it's going to be huge. And I just go back to the heat that he and Darby had for the longest time. And I could just envision one day we're talking about Sammy versus Darby for the AEW World Championship. I mean, they've got puzzle pieces there. They've got pieces that are developing and they're getting ready, they're prepping. You take your time, you find the right direction, the right pathways to the top, and then in 2, 3, 5 years from now, whatever it is, if hopefully they're still there and still kicking, then you get to those kind of matches and those kind of scenarios. So I'm all for that. Phil, we never told the people that you're in Chicago, but Elvis hits us with this. Who is your favorite NFL team?
Well, got to go with the Bears. Lifelong Bears fan. It's very painful being a Bears fan, but favorite team, Bears. Outside of that, that's tough because I'm such a homer, so it's tough. I guess I just have to go strictly with Bears. I was an Eagles fan for a little bit, but that's about it.
I'm in North Carolina, as you know, and I have never been a Panthers fan. I've just never gravitated to them. I've been a Vikings fan for years. I was a fan when Moss played for them. I love the fact that all these other teams passed on him, and I didn't have a team. But when he gave that, I think it was a press conference where he said, "I'm going to make all of them pay. They're all going to pay for not picking me." I said, I think I found my new team. And I started supporting Minnesota after that and supported them for years. And I'm not going to walk away from them now because I'm not going to be like that. But, we've had a rough go of it lately too. We had, 2, 3 years ago, we had that playoff run and it was awesome. That game was awesome. And Stephon Diggs doing his thing, great stuff. And then now we get to the other quarterback who maybe is not so great. And yeah, it's been an interesting ride to say the least. So,
you guys didn't trade up and get the number 2 pick and pick Mitchell Trubisky. So
true. Elvis says, "Hey, Phil, go Pack, go. Let me hear you say that." I don't think you're going to hear that. No. You're especially not going to hear it from me. Yeah.
Lifetime Packers hater over here.
There you go. Yeah, we'll say by virtue of the fact that Viking. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a couple more and then take it home here, kids. Victor says, "Any truth to Seth Rollins having heat with the creative writers about him not doing the Messiah gimmick anymore?" Listen, I said last week that if there's a company guy on that payroll, it's Seth freaking Rollins. It would take a lot to convince me personally that something he's fallen out of favor or they've fallen out of favor with him. Am I wrong or am I not seeing something here?
I think if there's any heat, I think there might be still a little bit of bitterness with him that they screwed up his last reign as a face so much. Because when you really look at it, they did a lot of things they don't do for a lot of people. They gave him 2 wins over Brock. Not a lot of people get that. They gave him 2 wins over Brock, and the SummerSlam win, you thought that was going to be the one to just go, okay, well, it's off to the races with Seth now. And then you throw him in this Hell in a Cell match, and he just never should have been in that match with The Fiend. They should have never booked that match. And the fans turned on him, but it wasn't his fault. You put him in a bad situation, so you had no choice but to turn him heel. So if there's any heat, it might be that he might feel like, all right, well, I don't feel like this is going to work long term, me doing this character and trying to stay a heel. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But I will hit you with this. For a long time, I kept seeing on Twitter a lot of people saying Orton is the best heel on the roster. And I kept saying, no, it's clearly Rollins. And since Rollins has not been on Raw has steadily declined. I don't know if that's a direct correlation, but it's enough to make you think, because when Rollins was doing the Monday Night Rollins stuff and he was still a face, he was white hot. He had that IC title doing the Open Challenge. He was doing some great stuff. He was carrying Raw for a long time. And Raw has not been as good without him.
Well, all we can do is go based off of what we see, and that's what we see. We see that when he left, things changed. And you have to say it's maybe there's some fire to that smoke, right? One more, and we're taking it home, folks. Ryan, we're going to go with you, my friend. When Becky comes back, do you put her right in the title picture? If so, do you still do the man? What's the difference, Phil, between putting her right back in the title picture and the lady we started off with today, Charlotte? What's the difference there?
Well, you still have a story there because she never lost. She had the longest reigning Raw Women's Championship reign ever. and she never lost. So there's already a story to tell with her coming back to get her title. And to go back with the Charlotte thing, I think it's how you handled things with Charlotte. Charlotte did not take the pin to lose the NXT title. Somebody else did. And then you kind of just go, oh, here's a Raw Women's title match. She didn't do anything to earn that Raw Women's title match. There was no story. It was just like, here you go. Then she lost that. She's off TV, comes immediately back, gets a tag title match. And that's why it's like, if there's a story there, it's nothing wrong with bringing someone back and putting them right back in the title picture. And that's the difference, I think, with Becky. There's clearly an interesting story to tell there.
Do you stick with the man gimmick?
I think you do, because that's what got you to the dance. But it's going to be very interesting to see what she does when she comes back post-paternity leave.
I think you stick with it. I think you dance with the one that brung you. And I think that's what got her to the table. I want everybody to note that my pet has wormed his way into the shot. Over my shoulder, he is like, oh, I better get on some camera time here before they go home with it. I mean, I haven't moved a muscle. And he's like, oh, am I on camera? It's good stuff. I just noticed that. Shannon's going to give you some praise here, Phil. Tom, bring on Phil more often. Well, there you go. Well, everybody was real nice to him, so maybe he'll do the show again.
Appreciate you.
There you go. All right, folks, we are going to go home. We appreciate everybody watching as always. We maintained a good viewership today all the way through, and then we went way over. What time is it? Saturday yet? But it's all good, man. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Phil, thank you as always. If you want to hear more of these two fine gentlemen on your TV right now, or however you're watching us, Tom Clark 6M podcast. And here in a few, let's see what time we got. On my end, it's 1:34. Let's say at 1:45 Eastern Standard Time, flip yourself over to Tom Clark 6M podcast Facebook page. We're going to reveal episode 22, which drops next Tuesday. Don't miss that, all right? Because it's fun stuff. And yes, it's one that Phil and I did. You're going to dig it. In the meantime, Phil, one more time, for old time's sake, hit the good people out there with how they can find you online.
You can find me on Twitter. My handle is @PhilDeal616. You can find my writing at Bleacher Report and Daily DDT.
There you go. Phil, thank you again. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to take you off the screen. But Phil, thank you for joining me here today, brother.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. All right, kids, we hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks as always for tuning in. We hope that you have a great freaking weekend, man. Stay safe, stay healthy. Wear your mask, kids. Do the right thing. Let's get through this together, all right? We're going to take it home right now. Thanks as always for watching. Watch yourself some pro wrestling this weekend. You know I always endorse that. And be sure to tune back in next week on Tuesday. The newest episode of Tom Clark 6M podcast drops. And every Friday, most every Friday, 12 p.m. noon Eastern Standard Time, Tom Clark's main event. So there you go. Thanks again, kids, for watching. We'll see you next time. Tom Clark's main event.